Warning! Xenoblades series spoilers! This video will show late game stuff and you do not want it spoiled for yourself. If you have not beaten any of the Xenoblades series games, please play them first and then watch this video. You have been warned. Xenoblade Chronicles games are known to have great post-games, whether they include finishing up side quests, exploring every last corner of the world, or filling out the affinity charts. There's always a lot of content to sink your teeth into. My personal favorite part of the post-game is the unique monsters, or Superbosses. They're usually exceedingly fun challenges that encourage the best builds and really reward your skills. Or you can be like me and just use Enel's guides, but either way, they're fun and they're a great way to see how powerful you've gotten. However, not every Superboss is a smash hit. Xenoblade Chronicles Future Redeemed is a fantastic game that has some pretty mediocre Superbosses. I think Gothod the Ethereal was okay, but I wasn't a fan of his Omega high defense. Bioluminescent Bob seals chain attacks and debuffs the heck out of you. Thunderfish Dunaro is so easy and unmemorable, I beat him my first try, and even though Fog Dweller Abyssea is probably my favorite Superboss overall, he's the only one that I'd ever desire to refight. He's a diamond in the rough. There is one Superboss in this game that really messed me up, however. I haven't managed to get to the point where I can fight Superbosses in Torna or 3 yet, but I'm quite comfortable in saying this is without a doubt the worst Superboss in the entire series, and probably one of the worst Superbosses in any game I've ever played. Their names are Stronghammer Dorga and Peacebringer Devalo, or, as you may know them, the Slow and Steadies. Here's why the Slow and Steadies are Xenoblade's worst Superboss. History and mechanics. The Slow and Steadies are the successor to the Mobius W fight, where two Levinuses are conjoined and you're forced to take them down at the same time. If you take down one and start focusing on the other, the one you took down will start healing and will keep attacking. You're forced to lower both of their health bars and finish one off with a chain attack while the other's down. It's a real cool concept for a fight, and it's for sure a spectacle, with this being the moment you get your full party as well. But I'm not really a fan of the fight itself. I just kind of found the fight a mixture of tedious and monotonous, even though the ending is pretty satisfying. Overall, probably a below average fight despite all the amazing story surrounding it. The Slow and Steadies had a lot to improve on. Maybe polishing the gimmick would have been a good start, but they immediately made it worse by making the gimmick not clear. I went in around level 90, there wasn't really anywhere else good to grind, and I thought this would be an adequate level. Big mistake. The first few attempts I was struggling with them. They had a lot of area of effect attacks and were generally stupid tanky. After checking Enel's character guides, check the on-screen card to see his channel, I went back into the fight, confident I would get them this time, only to be destroyed again. I eventually managed to take down one of the Levinuses, which was a Herculean task. I was quite frankly very ecstatic, and was ready to kill off the other Levinus, only for it to use a party-wiping move, completely ridding me of any satisfaction. I'm not even sure if I realized I had to kill them both at the same time and that I messed up since it was so chaotic, so I kept banging my head against this robot-shaped wall, constantly trying to get past them. There were a lot of extremely annoying quirks that I started noticing during this fight, however, and I think I'd like to go over them, starting with Problem 1, Gimmick Number 2. We've already established Gimmick Number 1, that they have to be killed at the same time. Fair enough, I wish you even got a hint about this, but after a while, your average player would probably figure it out. Problem 2, however, is just as annoying. You can't break them. Period. Break is one of the most overpowered abilities in the entire game. You use it all the way up to this point, so it's justifiably jarring to not have it. It's not a bad idea to have a Superboss immune to break, even if that would tank the replayability of the boss, but this mixed with the other obnoxious gimmicks and incredibly high defense just makes this fight a slog. On top of that, they don't even tell you about their immunity. You have to figure it out for yourself if that break doesn't work. This would be fine if it was made immediately clear, but most Superbosses have high defense against breaks, so you're likely to waste time trying to use break in hopes of getting a combo, only for it to not work. And there's no other way to deal damage. You have to slowly and tediously bring two Superbosses down. Maybe adding the ability to break combo could have saved this boss, but not having it makes this fight so much worse. Problem 2, Stupid AoE. If you asked me which of the Levinuses I hated more, I'd probably say the Kavesi one. I hate the Agnes one too. Pretty much all of its attacks are ether AoE, but at least it has a pleasing white color and less obnoxious attacks. The Kavesi Levinus gets rage really quickly, has more defense, and has one of my least favorite attacks in the entire series, where it will put a giant AoE field on the ground that takes away damage. It lasts for a long-ass time and the AI isn't smart enough to get your teammates out of there, so they'll all start dying. Luckily, if you built Glimmer right, she can heal the party up decently well, but even with her great healing, I've had a few runs die because of this annoying field. Problem 3. Bad arena. Usually interesting battle arenas are valued by me in games. It's one thing if a boss can be difficult and fun to master, but if the arena is interesting and has obstacles or ways to give you an advantage, then it can be just as memorable as the boss itself. The Slow and Steadies arena is very memorable for not working for this fight. It's cool you're fighting these giant robots around the remains of even bigger Levnesses from earlier in the story, but the actual gameplay is where this cool idea goes to die. The slow and steadies move around a lot, so sometimes they'll be up against a wall and you'll have to clip around their hitbox and the geography to attempt to lay in damage from their weak point. Sometimes they'll get stuck on the geography and clip to the top of these robot corpses. You can't jump, and they have ranged attacks, so have fun waiting for them to awkwardly slide down. Sometimes the slow and steadies themselves will turn and fling their companion across the map. It's extremely janky and quite frankly feels untested. This is the only point in the entire series where something feels flat out unfinished. Not even 2's worst moments scream unfinished to me, but this is just something else. The untested feeling mixed with the obnoxious game design kind of makes me wonder if the post-game was rushed, which I wouldn't be surprised if the answer was yes. Problem 4. Healing! Okay, so let's say you finally managed to take down one of these Levnesses to 10% HP or so. It might have taken a bit, but you're finally ready to take the other guy down. So you do, ever so slowly, watching the health bar tick down a pixel at a time until finally, this one's HP is low too. I imagine it's a very satisfying experience, being so close to— oh, come on! Yep, they heal. If you don't mess with a Levness for a bit, which you're likely to do on a first playthrough, it'll heal back up near to full. You have to guess that this aspect will carry over from the W fight, which by this point was like 45 hours ago. You have to look and see that all your progress is gone. Down the drain. Because you didn't play the way the game wanted you to. I hate this fight. I truly think it brings down what is otherwise a game I would gladly do 100% for again, making me never want to do that ever again. I sincerely think this is one of the most frustrating bosses I have ever fought in a video game. The slow and steadies. Alright, so I've proven this fight is ass. It's near impossible to complete normally, and it's tedious and bullshit. What more could I possibly have to say? Well, you're gonna have to come in a little closer. I have a little secret to share. Did you know there's a way to effortlessly beat this fight in around 5 minutes on hard? And it's incredibly simple. All you need to do is look up a guide online, because of course there are specific guides for this awesome fight. And what do you know? A common item people seem to have equipped? Fiber Belt. Fiber Belt is an accessory that increases damage dealt to machines by 90% minimum. This single accessory and the pairing of Rex and Matthew on the affinity screen completely breaks this boss. All you need to do is go to a weak side and slice through their HP effortlessly. Make sure to chain attack the nearly full boss when the one you have just weakened is low, and there you have it! The slow and steadies are already dead. And it's thanks to these guides from Freezio and Mobes that I found. I more closely followed Freezio's guide, but Mobes' guide is cool too. Now you might be saying, if there's a fairly obvious way to kill these guys, then why are you complaining? Because it's still bull? First off, Xenoblade games don't really encourage mixing up builds in the post-game. Sure, in the main campaign as you get items, it encourages building unique builds, but after that you mostly just find the best items and stick with them. There's no real way to save builds. You can favorite items in 1 and 3, which is kinda helpful, but it doesn't say which specific character you favorited it for, and if you mix up your build, you're slowly gonna have to rearrange everything and get yourself back, which means you're either gonna have to memorize it, or you're gonna have to screenshot or photograph everything. Now, once again, this isn't a huge deal normally in the post-game, since by that point you should have a general idea of the build you want for your character, but for this fight, you want to replace every accessory that has to do with break and give your characters defense-lowering items they wouldn't normally need, on top of the fiber belt for Rex or maybe Matthew. On top of that, you might want to change the character's gems and manuals, specifically for the chain attacks you'll need to pull off. Make sure you remember to rebuild everything as soon as you're done, or your muscle memory is gonna F you over. On top of this, even figuring out you have the fiber belt isn't really easy. Xenoblade 2 and 3 have some pretty mediocre organization, so to even figure out you have it, you'd have to scroll through all your items and just happen to stop on the fiber belt and read the description. And there are, once again, no hints that this item even exists, or that it would be helpful. You're not encouraged to really mess around with accessories, and this fight requires you to do just that. Once you get the right accessories, the fight amounts to nothing, and while it's very satisfying to smash them into oblivion, it leads to the slow and steadies being a nothing fight in my eyes. Obnoxiously bad if you try to do it normally, pitifully pathetic if you try to choose it. It's a lose-lose situation, and it leads to me claiming that the slow and steadies are the series' worst Superboss. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry it was so negative. If you want to watch a more positive video, you could always check out my Future Redeem video, my 2022 Game of the Year video. Most of my videos, I promise, will be positive. This is going to be one of the very few negative uploads. I also have a Discord channel. I'll link that in the description below, and hopefully this gets up before March. Sorry that I'm already really pushing the deadline that I set for myself. I promise in March I will start working immediately on my next video. I promise it's going to be big, and I promise it's going to be cool. Until then, take care. I hope you have a great day, and thank you for watching, and love you. Bye.